Okay, here we are, um, the northern side of the summit of Cathedral Rock, a little off trail, so I can spend a little time speaking, and I want to talk about injuries and working through running injuries. The reason I took a little break today to take this um, 2.6 mile round trip up from the south climb of Mount Charleston to Cathedral Rock. I was at the South Climb Trailhead, but took the Cathedral Rock Trailhead 2.6 mile round trip. Reason I did that, I've been um, going probably the last 6 months. I've had nothing less than a 7 to 12 hour Saturday adventure experience. And if you do that once a week, it can pile up a little bit um, of stress on your joints. And so a couple weeks ago, I began to experience a little left knee stress. The front of my left knee, it's kind of a little arthritic condition I haven't had for about 30 years. And it's back then it would knock me out of marathon experiences. Well, this time around, at least I recognized it. I recognized it a couple weeks ago, so I began to apply my injury strategy, and so far it's worked pretty well. So here are the things that I assess when I have a joint injury or any kind of an injury. The first thing that I look at are my shoes. And it turned out my shoes were getting a little old for me when I'm putting on, 30, 40, 50 miles a week. When I'm running and walking that much on my main exercise shoes, it puts a lot of stress on the system, and on the shoes. It puts a lot of wear on the shoes, and the shoes last maybe 6 months, and my shoes are about at the 6 month point. Let me show you the shoes that I use. This is a Nike Wild Horse shoe. It's a trail shoe, really good traction on the bottom, as you can see. And it's a new shoe that I just got last week. It's about due. My old one was about 6 months. Notice the gray area right above the sole. That's EVA, and regardless of how much you use the shoe, that is going to break down in about 6 to 8 months. And so you want to check the age of your shoes. Now, if you buy them online, it's hard to check that because you can't see this right here. And let's see if I can zero in on it. If you look closely, the midpoint to the left, it says 1/18/19. That's the date this shoe was manufactured. And I'd rather have a shoe that has a manufacture date of 1 or 2 months ago. Nike tends to manufacture its shoes in January and then again in August. But when you buy them online, they don't necessarily give you the newest shoe. So you might need to go to a Nike shop or a specialty running shoe shop. But do look under the tongue of the shoe and check out that manufacture date. Get the closest date to the date that you bought the shoe possible. Well, still these new shoes, it's about 7 months since the manufacture date, and I just put them on last week, and I'm I'm noticing an immediate difference. I had some soreness in my knee, and actually I went to one of my old shoes that was a model of this. The reason I used that Nike Wild Horse is that it's a low drop shoe, and that tends to really help your joints. Low drop means that there's a low heel that has less of a difference between the height of the heel and the height of the toe. That's very important. So you're not meant to run on these high-heeled shoes that have these heels that go way up. I was running on a higher heeled shoe, and that's one of the reasons that I think eventually I began to experience that knee pain. So it's not just that, oh, he's running too much, putting too many miles in, but it's also the shoe and the condition of the shoe. I was running on an old shoe that had a higher heel, and eventually it'll get to you. So newer shoe, low heel, made an immediate difference. I haven't felt a pain at all today. Another thing that I do is I protect my knees. So I start wearing these knee braces just to hold everything together. That helps too when I have a knee injury. And by the way, I wear these knee braces on the way down every mountain. I would not run down a mountain without having them on, because it just provides a good protection for the knees. Now, another thing about an injury, okay, so this knee was beginning to feel a little off. And so the first thing I look at is the shoes. I went back to an old pair of shoes that was lower drop. Okay, what happened then is that since it was an older pair, it was from about a year ago, it wasn't giving my feet enough of a cushioning, and my right foot began to experience a compensation injury. So when you have an injury, another thing you really need to watch out for is that you continue to run with or walk with good form. Don't if you're at a point where you have to protect one leg, one foot, in order that's injured, in order to and put all the pressure on the other foot, you're going to get a compensation injury. So if you're at that point where you really need to protect that one injured side, then it's time to just start walking or really back off. Fortunately, I didn't have that experience this round, and I caught things in time. Another good thing to cultivate is the ability to listen to your body. I used to just think, oh, I'm feeling this pain, but it'll go away, and it's just because I'm running, and it's just one of those passing pains, and I keep running and I'd ignore it. Well, that's not a good thing to do, because what happens then is you can really deepen that injury, and then you are dealing with an established injury, which you're looking at being off for a month or two, or maybe even 3. Now, strategic rest is important if you begin to feel an injury coming on. Strategic rest of just backing off and making your adventure every other week just a little less. Take a couple days off now and then, and strategic rest will actually help your body recuperate very rapidly if you're at the very beginning of an injury, not if it's established. And fortunately, I caught this at the very beginning, and I took about 3 rest days. Now, an interesting thing about resting is that you worry about, oh, I'm going to lose my conditioning, then I got to start all over again. Well, that's not exactly true, because You can do kind of a maintenance rest, which means that if you take 1 week off, you lose almost nothing as far as conditioning. Second week, maybe you lose 20, 30%. By the third week of rest, yes, you're getting into, you got to start over again. But once again, the first week is not going to hurt your conditioning significantly, and it may help you bounce back from an injury, and then you can continue whatever you're doing, whatever exercise you're doing. You can continue it, and you haven't lost anything. In fact, your body is freshened up, and you are rested, and you might even be in better condition for that week of rest. So strategic rest is also important. And as I mentioned, the shoes, that's one of the first things I look at, no matter where I'm hurting. If I was hurting on my neck, if I was hurting on my lower back, or my hips, or my knees, or my feet, every single joint, all the way down my body. The first thing I look at is, are my shoes too old? Have I compacted that EVA layer too much? And are the shoes just basically dead? Thing about running shoes is that, and maybe a lot of your exercise shoes, whatever sport you participate in, the thing about those shoes is that they may look really nice. I've got a whole closet full of really nice looking shoes that are dead. I wouldn't dare run in them because I get an injury. So the shoes look good, and maybe walk in them, but you're going to end up throwing away a lot of very good looking shoes, and there are places you can donate these shoes also. But you just gotta get used to it, because a good looking shoe can be dead, and don't wear it. Don't try to save money, because then you will potentially end up, early on in my running career, I would, have an injury. I'd go to the doctor, and I'd get an x-ray, and I'd get all this attention, and you know what? By the time I was done with that, even with the copay on my insurance, I would end up paying about, you're putting out about $500, and then you still need to get a new pair of shoes. So just get a new pair of shoes at the very beginning of any injury. And also, having a strategy to deal with injuries is really important, because you're not going to have just a totally injury-free experience as you do your sport. Injuries are going to pop up, repetitive motion injuries especially, for a lot of the sports that we do. And the key is to analyze each injury, and to develop a strategy to be able to feel it early on, analyze it, what's going on, and develop a strategy. I have like 20 things I do when I begin experiencing knee pain. A couple other things I do is I do a lot of deep stretches, only when I'm warmed up. Something that here's my toe, and I'm reaching down all the way to the toe. I do a number of those, and a number of variations of stretches every single day. That has knocked out the injury that happens when I have pain behind my knee. That used to be a big problem. It used to knock me out of running. Another thing that, and you can see on my exercise, I've got a conditioning video on the Las Vegas Area Trails.com website, and I show some of those stretches. There's a stretch that I do for my lower back, and that's knocked out lower back injuries that used to just knock me out totally. It's eliminated them for years now. The stretches have eliminated the injury behind the knee. The I have chondroitin glucosamine supplement that I take every single day, and that helps my joints also. So there are just a number of things that you develop as far as strategies. I hope some of these strategies have been helpful to you and will keep you going. Some people, when they get an injury, they think, "Oh, I'm just not meant to run," or running is too hard on the body. And you hear people, they see me running down trails, and every now and then someone who's like a physical therapist will say, you should never run down an uneven surface. And I've been doing it for 20 years, and you deal with it. You figure out how to work out problems and injuries. There are no, people will tell you you should not do something. You should not run. You should do something like, ride a bike or swim, because running is so bad for you. No, it's not. It's more a matter of just listening to your body and knowing how to deal with whatever injuries, pains that you face, knowing how to diagnose them. And for years, I've had injuries now and then, and like just this last couple weeks, but I've had more established injuries. I remember a whole year I had an Achilles heel injury, and for like 6 months I just took all my running routes and I walked them. and and I came out of that injury, and that had to do with shoes too, ultimately. So and that the low drop really helped that. And then, here's another thing that is very important with shoes. I have some inserts that I put into the shoes. Here you see a heel and a full foot insert. These are blue gel inserts. What they do is they take the impact and they send it out horizontally, rather than that impact going up vertically all through your joints. And if you've got low drop shoes, you can add a little bit of cushioning on your heel. And definitely when you're running along rocks, and as you can see, my trails contain a lot of rocks. You need that cushioning, that extra cushioning, to keep you from beating up your feet and experiencing foot injuries. So those heel insoles are very important. So these are a lot of the things that I do that are the most important things I do to avoid injury in the first place, and to correct an injury once it happens early on. I hope this is helpful, because the more you can remain injury-free, the more enjoyable your sport is going to be. And there's nothing less enjoyable, more horrible than every step you take having pain from an injury. No, don't do that. Prevent injuries and diagnose them early on. Take preventative measures and corrective measures, and get out of that injury as rapidly as you can. And so you can keep doing your sport. You don't want to be like you have an injury, knocks you out of your sport, and then it messes up everything with me when I'm not running every day. I'll eat as much as I used to eat when I was running, and so now I've gained weight. Okay, now my weight is going to be an added factor in putting stress on my body. I happen to be at my ideal weight now. I lost 20 pounds last spring. One of the best things I've ever done. And so get to your ideal weight, stay at your ideal weight. But anyway, yeah, you gain weight when you have an injury, and you stop for too long. You get discouraged, affects me emotionally, And then you decide, okay, I'm going to go out there, and you're out of shape, and you try to do the things your mind tells you that you can still do them, but your body says, wait a minute, I'm not in condition, and you get another injury. So the best thing is to keep as steady a conditioning as you possibly can. Diagnose those injuries early on, take preventative measures so that you are never off for more than a week at a time. Lower your distance if you're running, or your activity level if you're doing another form of exercise. Cut it in to a fourth. That'll at least give you a maintenance conditioning, and you don't lose all your conditioning, and you're not putting your body in stress again when you regain your conditioning. But if you do lose your conditioning for some reason, start out very, very gradual and build up. No more than 10% more distance or exertion or time in your workout from one week to the other as you're building up from a starting point. Because if you decide, oh wow, the first week, yeah, I sort of got into condition, then the second week you're at 50%, and the third week you're running 100% of what you ran or exercised at your top conditioning, you're just asking for an injury. So this is my best wisdom on avoiding injuries and stopping injuries rapidly, and so you can keep a steady conditioning level. Makes life more enjoyable, and it's healthier in the long run. Okay, enough. I've probably spoken longer than I need to, but thank you for your patience. I hope you've learned something that's useful. By the way, a couple more, that's La Madre Mountain up there. A couple more thoughts regarding the injury prevention that I thought of. One is, you saw the inserts that I put in my shoes. That is definitely good to shield you from the rocks. However, there is a downside, and that downside is that it raises your ankle a little bit above or toward the top of your heel, raises your heel on your shoe a little bit more toward the top, and that gives you less ankle protection on the trail. So you want to be very careful. You're learning to run a new way. You're strengthening your ankles. Don't just put those inserts in your shoe and then jump off on a trail, and because you're going to sprain your ankles. So strengthen your ankles and develop a sense of watching the trail continually, so that you one part of your awareness is always on, where's there a rock, there's a divot in the trail. Once you develop that trail footing, then yeah, you can develop a little more speed with those inserts in your shoes. And that's what I have done, and it's a great combination. Trail readiness, ankle strength, awareness of the trail, and those inserts in the shoes. Great combination. Okay, and one other thing that you can do here is something that can almost knock you off of an injury. Just kill an injury almost immediately without stopping your running, and that is to you land on your toes. So land on your toes, shorten your strides, and actually there is a number to look for. The cadence of your strides is 120 strides per minute. Now, that's a lot. That's 2 strides per second, and you're taking very short strides, and you're landing on your toes. All those things, well, just it's almost impossible to injure yourself worse if you're injured, or to develop an injury if you don't have an injury, if you catch it right at the very beginning when you're first feeling a little soreness or stiffness in one of your joints. Immediately go into that cadence, 120 steps per minute, and landing on your toes, and then going back to your heel, so it's toe, heel, and what that's going to do is it'll enable you to continue your workout, you know, as long as it's reasonable. If you're really injured, no, don't do it. But if you're not horribly injured, if you're just feeling a little sore and you feel something coming on, immediately change your cadence and change your form, and it will pretty much correct whatever is causing that injury, and you can prevent injuries that way. So those are some additional things to say about avoiding injuries as you're running on trails. And think of this in terms of whatever sport that you engage in, is watch your form, make smaller movements, and you know, cut your time in half or in fourth for a few days, and most injuries will correct themselves with those measures. So, okay, that's it for today.